Hi everyone, this is Rachel from Korvia EPIK team. I'm here to help you guys with final documentation. Although EPIK still haven't requested any final documentation from you, I do recommend you to start gathering everything and be ready. Remember, the faster you submit your final documentation, the more chances you get. Now, let me start with application form. All of you guys should be familiar with application already, and some of you already went through our screening system even. The application form as final documentation, you only need to remember 3 things. Number 1, get ready for 2 passport photos. Please do not print your photo on the A4 paper. It is not acceptable. If you cannot find a place to print your photo on photographic paper, you may use the link below for the service. Number 2, when you're printing out your application form, please do not screenshot your web page, but download the form. If you cannot download the form, please contact your recruiter to send you the file. Number 3, please use your pen to sign the bottom of 5th page of your application form. Sign your signature next to your typed name on the same box. Signing on the last page of application form will not be acceptable. Criminal background check. The most important thing to remember for the criminal background check will be valid date. If you're going for spring intake, you have to get your CBC after August 1st. If you're going for fall intake, you have to get your CBC after February 1st. Also, please double check your name on the CBC before you send it to get apostilled. It rarely happens, but sometimes the government misspells your name. These are the samples for Canada, United States, and England. If you have requested criminal background check and it looks similar to these, you've got the correct one. And one last thing about criminal background check, if you have lived in third country for more than 2 years after 18th birthday, you have to get CBC with an apostille from that country too. BA Diploma. There's not much about BA Diploma. You just have to get it with the correct name on. Nickname or shortened name on the diploma is not acceptable. So just make sure you have full passport first and last name on it. If you're not graduated yet, don't worry. You may submit degree confirmation letter from University Administration Office to prove that you're intending to graduate before coming to Korea. This letter is to make sure you won't be held for further process just because you're graduating a bit later than others. But still, this is only for temporary. You will still have to submit BA Diploma after you graduate and before the deadline we provide. Birth certification. Heads up, candidates from UK or Australia, you will have to get the birth certification as additional document. If you are an immigrant from third country to UK or Australia, you will have to submit registration of certification. This was provided to you when you were granted to immigrate from third country, so there is high chance of your parents holding on to the original certification. You don't have to submit the original version, but just photocopy the certification will be good enough. Apostille. This is the essential thing in the final documentation. If you get a wrong apostille, not only you will have to wait for a new apostille to come back, but also cost you unnecessary expense to get a new one. So, remember, there are only 3 documents to get apostille. Number 1, criminal background check. Number 2, BA Diploma. And number 3, birth certification. For the criminal background check, you have to get normalized and apostille in national level. But if section on US, you won't have to get it normalized, but just get apostille in national level. Here are some samples for England, United States, and Canada. Canada does not do apostille, so Canadian candidates will have to get notary through Korea Embassy or consulate for both CRC and diploma. Also remember, both your CBC result paper and apostille is only valid for 6 months. Getting CBC in January and get an apostille in February for fall semester won't be acceptable. For BA Diploma, even for US, you will have to get it normalized and apostille in state level. Here are some samples for England, United States, and New Zealand. However, depends on the state, the apostille might look different. As long as it says state apostille on the paper, there will be no big problem. For birth certification, like I have mentioned already, only those who were born in England or Australia have to submit it. Check the samples on the screen and see if they look similar. However, for the candidates who are requested to submit registration of certification, do not need to apostille their certification. At last, if you have master's degree, you have to get an apostille too. Only the ones who studied education or TOEFL as master, or the ones who studied education as their BA and get MA in different major needs to get an apostille. This is not a mandatory document to submit, but a document to offer your salary level. You will have to submit 2 BA transcript that is sealed in separate envelopes. Sometimes international delivery service such as DHL, FedEx, or UPS might open your transcript to check. So we do recommend you to write the sentence below on the blank paper and wrap up your transcript before sending. Also, if you have studied less than 2 years at the university where you've got BA diploma, you will have to get 2 transcripts from formal college or university that you transferred credit from. However, if you have all the details about how many credits and what kind of classes you've took on the final transcript, you won't have to get another transcript from formal institute. Recommendation letter. The recommendation letter is one of the documents that takes a lot of time to get a new one. Especially if your professor takes 2 to 3 weeks to write one for you, the letter definitely will be the one you really don't want to mess up with. Luckily, we get to screen your recommendation letter when we are screening your initial document. However, even we might miss the mistake on the letter, so do make sure you have everything by checking the following list. Here is the sample of recommendation letter. Make sure you have everything typed except ink signature. Just to repeat, a signature will be the only thing on the letter that is written by pen. Now, here are some bad samples of reference letter. This letter was asked to revise because it has SMOE on it. If you're only applying for Seoul and if you're not intending to try on any other province after failing Seoul position, this will be fine. But EPIK definitely will point out about it. This letter was not acceptable because they wrote dates with the pen. Again, signature will be the only thing on the letter that is written by pen. This letter needs to be revised because the signature was printed. Even though the signature is signed by hand, if it's printed, it's not acceptable. Also, ink signature next or onto digital signature is not acceptable too. Only one signature should be on the letter and it must be signed by ink. If your reference letter is all good, but recommender hasn't provided logo, email address, phone number, company, or school address, you may submit recommender's business card rather than getting a whole new letter. Teaching English to foreign language certification. You just have to have one certification out of TOEFL, TESOL, and CELTA. You must have more than 100 hours of online course to be qualified for EPIK. On your certification, it must clearly show how many hours you've earned. If it's not written on your certification, you will have to submit transcript or letter to prove the hours you've earned. If you got TOEFL as your university diploma, you would have to get a letter from either professor or administration office to prove how many hours you've studied at the university for TOEFL certification. Also, it will be much better if they clarify if it's in class or online. For those who has CELTA, EPIK does not require a letter to prove the hours. So if you have CELTA, you just need to submit the certification. Also, remember that you do not need to submit an original certification as your final document. But if you submit photocopy, they will request you to bring original to EPIK orientation. Teaching license. If you have teaching license, you do not have to get another TOEFL certification or a letter to prove hours. Just make sure you have enough valid year to teach in Korea. And just like TOEFL, you only need to submit photocopy of your teaching license. Additional document. Proof of schooling. Since this document is the initial document you have to submit with the application form, I am sure you are all familiar with it. But to clarify, candidates from South Africa needs to provide proof letter of English education from both middle and high school. The letter should be signed by ink just like recommendation letter. On the letter, it should clearly mention the period you studied at the school and the language they mainly use to teach at school. Make sure your full name is there, and you must get the letter from administration office or principal. Beside proof of schooling, if you homeschooled, you'd have to provide photocopy of high school diploma, high school transcript, and the letter saying you've done homeschooling. If you studied with your parents, you would have to get a letter from parents. If you went to a certain institute, you'd have to get a letter from institute. If you're taking any prescripted medication except birth control and iron pill, or if you're having any medical issue, you will have to get a letter from doctor to prove you're okay to work abroad for more than a year. If you have tattoo, you will have to take a picture, scan it, and send it to us along with your final documentation. So, these were the basic but crucial points of your final documentation. If you're in a special situation, you might need more additional documents to get. In this case, talk to your recruiter and make sure you have all the documents ready before sending it to Korea. These information might seem obvious, but remember, just because of simple mistakes like not signing your application form or sending photocopied apostille will cost you spend $50 to $70 more of delivery fee. And not only the money you spend, but your chance with EPIK will also decrease. I mean, you don't want to spend all that money and time for nothing, right? Thank you so much for watching this video with patience, and wish you good luck with getting ready for final documentation.